In this guide, we're going to build something a little more advanced but super useful. In this example, we'll use HubSpot and Zapier to trigger an outbound call from our voice agent. So for our little story here, I've created a demo team called Fresh Flowers. You can imagine this as a flower shop that wants to automatically confirm orders by phone. So first, let's go over here to workflows. Here I've set up a simple outbound workflow called flower order confirmation. This is the workflow our bot will run whenever Zapier tells it to make a call. At the top, I've added a couple variables that will pass in from HubSpot. First name of the customer as well as flower order. These will let the agent greet the customer by name and read back exactly what they ordered. Here's how the call itself is structured. First, the bot greets the customer using their first name and thanks them for their recent flower order. Then it asks for their full address so the shop can confirm where the order should be delivered. We also store that address as a variable so we could use it later in the call, or in a future tutorial we'll see how to send that data back to HubSpot. But for now, the workflow confirms the order. Something like, our records show that you placed the following order, flower order. Is that correct? And the flower order value is going to come straight from HubSpot via Zapier. And then once we've confirmed everything, we'll keep the ending nice and simple. The agent says something like, thank you, that's all I needed to know. Then we'll use the leave workflow action. When the workflow ends, Greetmate automatically falls back to its default behavior and asks if there's anything else that the caller needs help with. By the way, you could also build this whole interaction using a custom prompt instead of the step-by-step workflow items. A custom prompt is more free form. It's kind of like giving instructions to ChatGPT and then letting the AI handle the conversation. In this guide, we'll stick to the linear workflow builder, but it's good to know that both options exist. Now let's switch over to HubSpot so we can see where our data is coming from. In this demo account, I've added a couple of test contacts and I've set up a sample deal. This deal is linked to a contact, and in a real account, this would be your actual customer. So as you may know, HubSpot deals have different stages like appointment scheduled, qualified to buy, and so on. For this example, we're going to tell Zapier, in just a moment in the next step, whenever a deal moves into qualified to buy, start an outbound call with our Greetmate agent. I've also added a custom deal property called flower order. In a real setup, this might be the product they purchased, the plan they chose, or any other key detail that you want the bot to read back during the call. Now let's put everything together with Zapier. Zapier is an automation platform that connects tools like HubSpot and Greetmate so you don't have to write any code. So I've created a folder called Flower Shop Demo, and inside it a Zap that connects HubSpot to Greetmate. The first step is our trigger. Here we're using HubSpot as the trigger app. So we've chosen a trigger like updated deal stage, and specifically we're watching the deal stage field. Then we tell Zapier only trigger when the deal stage becomes qualified to buy. Zapier pulls in a sample deal so we can see the data that will be available in later steps, things like the deal ID, pipeline, and our custom flower order property. Okay, next we need to figure out which contact this deal belongs to. So in step 2, we use HubSpot's Find Associations action. So we pass in the deal ID from step 1, set the object to deal, and the target type to contact. This gives us the ID of the contact that's associated with this deal. And in step 3, we actually look up that contact. We use the contact's record ID from step 2, and HubSpot returns all the details we care about: name, email, phone number, and any other contact level information that we might use later. And now for the fun part, making the outbound call. For the action app, we're using Greetmate, and the event is Make Outgoing Call. Before we can continue, Zapier needs permission to access your Greetmate account. So let's just go into Greetmate, Integrations, API Tokens, create a new token, copy it, then when Zapier prompts you to sign into Greetmate, paste that token into the login box. Once that's connected, you'll see your teams and agents appear automatically inside the Zap. So for this phone number field, we won't type it in manually, but we'll pull straight from the HubSpot contact in step 3. So if your contact has a phone number saved in HubSpot, that's the number Greetmate will call. Then we come to custom data. This is where we pass in the variables the workflow expects, those ones that we set up earlier inside of Greetmate. So here we map first name, HubSpot contacts first name, and flower order, which is that custom deal property for the flower order. In your case, of course, you can imagine this as any data that matters to you, a plan name, subscription type, appointment details, and so on. Finally, we choose which workflow to run for this call. Thanks to our integration, it knows about our Greetmate workflow from before, and we just select flower order confirmation. Now we can test the Zap. So when we hit test, Zapier sends this information to Greetmate, and Greetmate places the test call in the workflow that we built earlier. And there's that call.
Hello, Brian. Thank you for your recent flower order with fresh flowers. Before we can proceed, we need to collect a bit more information. First, what is your full address?
742 Evergreen Terrace.
Thank you. Our records show that you have placed the following order with us. 1 dozen roses. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. That is all I needed to know. Okay, great. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Worked perfectly. So once everything looks good, we can turn the Zap on. Now let's see if it's working in a real scenario. So we'll go back to our HubSpot deals, take a deal that's in appointment scheduled, and update its stage to qualified to buy. Within a short time, Zapier picks up that change, and Greetmate automatically starts an outbound call using the workflow that we just built. And there it is again. So inside Zapier under Zap Runs, you can review each run, see the steps that it went through, and debug if anything goes wrong. And in Greetmate under Call Logs, you can see the calls that were made, plus the transcript if you want to review what happened on the call. So that is our full flow. The HubSpot deal state changes, Zapier finds the right contact, and Greetmate calls the customer with your customized workflow. In this example, we used HubSpot deals, but you could just as easily trigger calls from tools like Slack, Gmail, calendar events, and many, many more. In part 2, we'll take this even further and send information back from Greetmate into HubSpot. For example, to update properties after the call completes. Once you understand this pattern, you can build all kinds of automations for your business.